there, it's Autumn, and this is episode 2 of my podcast, Gaming All Autumn. I've officially made it to a second episode with this. So, like I said in my first episode, I said in my second episode today I'd be covering Pilotwings 64. So, I'm going to be covering that game, and without further ado, I'll get straight into it. So, Pilotwings 64 was a launch title for the N64, just like Super Mario 64. It was the next game in my list. Technically, Pilotwings 64 was the first game in my list, because they go by date, but if games released on the same date, they go in alphabetical order. But I figure in order of coverage, I can just cover them in any order I want if they're coming out on the same day. And Mario 64 is the quintessential N64 game, in my opinion. And so I wanted to start with that. But Pilotwings 64, I had never played. I had never played this game before. All I knew is it was a launch title. Like I said, there was 2 launch titles here in the U.S. There was Super Mario 64 and Pilotwings 64. In Japan, I know there was a third launch title, but I don't know really anything about it. I've seen the cover to it, and that is about it. But I didn't know much about Pilotwings 64. I was under the impression it was like a parachuting game. Like it was like a parachuting simulator. And that might be because I'd seen footage from Pilotwings, the original on SNES. Because Pilotwings 64 is the sequel to Pilotwings on the Super Nintendo, which was a launch title for that system alongside Super Mario World and F-Zero. So, the 64's launch had pretty well the same launch as the SNES, only no F-Zero. We would get an F-Zero game with the 64 with F-Zero X, but that would be a minute. I think that was 98 or 99 that we got F-Zero X. But we did get a Mario, and we got a Pilotwings. Pilotwings 64, though, it was not what I thought it was. It's a flight simulator, yes, and there is parachuting, a little bit, bonus game parachuting. It's primarily, you've got 3 vehicles you can do. There's the hang glider, the rocket belt, and the gyrocopter. So, the hang glider is what you think. It's a hang glider, and you are hang gliding, and you just have to land this hang glider and fly it. You can kind of go up and down with it, but if you go down, your speed will increase. If you go up, your speed will decrease, which, note on my last episode, if you listened, when talking about the wing cap in Super Mario 64, I said, what kind of game uses real-life flying physics for flying? That's ridiculous. I've never seen that in a video game. Well, I went on to literally my next game, which show me that those physics again. And that's why the hang glider is my least favorite vehicle to control, because it handles like charbroiled asshole. So I just, there's the hang glider, and then there's the rocket belt, which is just a jetpack, but it's a big jetpack that kind of like sprouts like these like little wings out of it. And, you can hit the A button is like the heavy thruster, B is the light thruster, and then the Z trigger is the brakes, basically, and you can change your views with the R trigger and all that, the right bumper button. And then you've also got the gyrocopter, which is a helicopter, and it handles just like a helicopter. You have to usually get to 50 miles per hour as you're driving, and you can take off, and you can A accelerates, B decelerates, and the Z trigger will fire some missiles. Those are your 3 main vehicles you can drive, and then you have a set number of missions for each one. You have beginner class, class A, class B, and pilot class. Beginner class has 1 test for each vehicle. Class A has 2 tests for each vehicle. Class B and pilot class have 3 tests for each vehicle. Usually the hang glider's a lot easier, a lot harder, but that's what you get, and there's 6 pilots in the game. Once you've chosen your missions and all, you get your choice of 6 different pilots. You have Lark, who is this little fucker that looks like Nestor from Nintendo Power, and then you got Kiwi, who's basically just a girl version of Lark. See, now I'm calling him Nestor. Then you have Goose, who's like a stereotypical American guy, he's kind of like a redneck, and he's decked out in the American flag, and I think he's supposed to be named after the guy from Top Gun. I don't know. I've seen Top Gun, and I can only assume. Then you have Ibis, I think that's how her name is pronounced, Ibis or Ibis. I'm not sure how you pronounce her name, but I know she's supposed to be like an islander of some sort. I think she's like, she looks to be like she's like Hawaiian or Samoan or something like that. And then you have Hawk, and Hawk's this big burly dude, kind of think, I think like Barrett from Final Fantasy VII. Then you have Robin, who is this just like kind of like older blonde girl. She's not older, but she's probably like a middle-aged blonde girl. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I for the most part just used Kiwi or Goose for this whole game. Like there's each pilot has their own like abilities and stuff. Not really. They all control about the same, but each one's a little different than the rest. And Kiwi's my favorite personally. And then sometimes Goose made a few missions easier, so generally I always just picked Kiwi and Goose. And each of your tests will be set on different islands. You have I believe 4 different islands. Yeah, you have 4 different islands. You have the Holiday Island, which is basically like a tropical paradise. Something you just take a vacation to, nice, like something like the Bahamas or whatever. And then you have Everfrost Island, which is the snow-covered, really dreary island. The weeb in me recognizes it as looking like the kind of snowy area that surrounds Muscle Tower in Dragon Ball. And then you have Crescent Island, which is kind of like Holiday Island, but not as chill. Less touristy, less relaxed, more jungle, more rainforest. But it's still a really nice area. And then you have Little States, my favorite island is the Holiday Island, but Little States is a close second. Little States is really cool. It's an island shaped like the United States, and it's got little things like the Hollywood sign, the Mississippi River, the Midwest is really like flat. It's just like, it looks like the United States, but the size of one island, and that's really cool. I think that's just a really original area. So all your tests are set on those islands, and I'm just going to just start and dive in on the different tests. In the beginner class, first you have the hang glider mission, Albatross Nest. Albatross Nest is super easy. It just teaches you how the basics of flying the hang glider. I accidentally perfected that on my second try, so it wasn't bad. And then you go to the balloon crash with the rocket belt, and it's a little tougher. It teaches you kind of how to fly the rocket belt. Took me a little while, but in retrospect, it's not too bad. It's pretty easy in retrospect. It's just what my problem with it when I first started playing was I just didn't know how to control it. So once you learn, it's a super easy mission. Then you have Novice Rings with the gyrocopter. And it's pretty tough, but it does kind of set the feel for driving the gyrocopter. Teaches you the basics and all that. It took me like an hour to get the perfect score on that. Because I'm going to go and tell you right now, I did not get perfect score on every test. I was shooting to. I wanted to do that for you, the listener. I wanted to do that so you could hear everything this game has to offer in my podcast. And I just wanted to do it because I'm a completionist. But I didn't do that, and I'll get into why here later, but up until the pilot class, I was shooting for a perfect score on everything, and that took me like an hour to get a perfect score on Novice Rings, because I'm not too good, just as I am horrible at landing the hang glider, I'm not too good at landing the gyrocopter either. The only thing I'm good at landing is the rocket belt, but, it was a simple little mission that kind of just teaches you how to use the gyrocopter. Then your Class A missions, for your hang glider missions, you have 2. Your first is just so annoying. It's called Shutterbug. It is the first of 3 missions, each one worse than the last, where you have to take pictures. Because that's one thing I didn't mention earlier, was the Z-Trigger. Like I said, Z-Trigger is your brakes for your rocket belt and the missiles for the gyrocopter. Well, it is a camera for the hang glider. You can take pictures, which you can take pictures of stuff just taking pictures, and you can save them in the game and just keep them for collection. But the Shutterbug missions also require you to take pictures of stuff. This one requires you to take a picture of a big smokestack on fire. And the more, they give you a sample photo, and the more like the sample photo your photo looks, the better score you get. And if you want the perfect score, guess what? You have to get the perfect picture. Moving it is just a bitch and a half. But, it took forever for me to get that Shutterbug mission down. But don't worry, the frustration only gets worse from there. Shutterbug is nothing compared to some of the bullshit from later in this game. But that was a hard mission. Then you get Chicken Dive, which, from what I've seen, a lot of people do think Chicken Dive's a tougher one. I didn't have many problems with Chicken Dive. I actually really enjoyed Chicken Dive and thought it was a really neat little mission. I liked doing that. Just you dive off this like big mountaintop and you're going straight down and picking up speed, and then all of a sudden you like jerk up and then get on top of the mountain and you have to land. And I think that's really fun. I did it as Goose, I believe. That was a neat mission. I really liked Chicken Dive. Really satisfying. And then for your Rocket Belt missions, first you have Metropolis Dance. Metropolis Dance is the first time you're really going to encounter like tight turns in the Rocket Belt. Usually with the Rocket Belt, tight turns can be kind of tough because you build up so much momentum, but that's your first time you really encounter like really tight turns. You're in the city. I believe you're supposed to be in like LA or something in little states, and you have to fly through different rings. It was tough. Took me a minute, but not too bad. And then you have Touch and Go. Touch and Go is pretty fun. It's it's a slower paced test. It's you're not moving too fast ever, but and you kind of have to like watch what you're doing. But it's really neat. You're like flying the rocket belt around, landing on different landing pads, like these little mini targets. And then once you've landed on every mini target, then you land on the big target. And that was a fun one. Didn't take me too long to get a perfect score on that one, because the touch and go missions, there's two of them. They were really fun, especially the first one. Well, not really, especially the first one. They're both really fun. So I enjoyed that one a good bit. And then you have your two gyrocopter missions for Class A. You have Sky Maneuvers, which Sky Maneuvers is so fun. I can maybe it takes me a minute to get a perfect score on that one, because like I said, I'm bad at landing the helicopter, but that mission itself, when you take the landing out, is so fucking fun. I love Sky Maneuvers. I got to where I can do it and hit every ring without letting off the gas. It's so fun. I love that mission. Sky Maneuvers is super fun. Then you have Bullseye. Bullseye is like it's kind of like the upcoming nightmares you're gonna have with the shooting missions, but a nice, like, light nightmare. It's just a little tough, a little challenging, but it kind of teaches you the basics of shooting the missiles. First time you got to shoot the missiles, it has you hit 3 targets and circle back around and land. It's cool. I like that mission. It's alright. Then we got your Class B missions. Okay, first you start with Velocity Square for the hang glider. There's 3 hang glider missions. The first is Velocity Square. Velocity Square was the first time that I really, really considered hanging up the perfect score run and just beating the game. I didn't, but I did. It took me, I think, I played Velocity Square for like 2 or 3 hours. Then said, fuck this, I can't do it. Turned the 64 off. Turned it back on. Tried again for like 45 minutes. Said fuck it again. Went to bed. Woke up after a nap and tried it again for like an hour and then did it. Velocity Square is a really, really hard mission. You've got to, you're on the hang glider riding up those thermal, I forget what they're called, thermal something or another. They're these big, like, wind tunnels that blow up in the air, and when you ride into them, they'll raise your altitude. You have to ride into a bunch of them in a row, raising your altitude, I believe it's like 450. And once you've reached the max altitude, then you have to dive down and hit your target and land on the target. And now, riding up the thermal tunnels, or whatever they're called, wasn't bad. I didn't have any kind of trouble with that whatsoever. They were, it's easy. I got to where I could do it with one hand barely looking. The problem for me was landing. Like I've said, I am horrible at landing the hang glider. So I was having a lot of trouble landing in that mission. But I finally, especially coming from that high up, but I finally figured it out, and I got it. So it wasn't bad. Then, then you got Shutterbug 2. I said Shutterbug was bad, right? Shutterbug ain't got shit on Shutterbug 2. Oh, fuck. Shutterbug 2 is just a horrible mission. One of the worst in the game, second only to, I can only imagine, you can guess what I'm going to say later in the podcast here. Shutterbug 2, you are on, is actually, to give it credit, Shutterbug 2, I think personally, is the most scenic level in the game. I really enjoy looking at Shutterbug 2. It's a really just cute stage. It's really nice. It's really just scenic and beautiful. I really like Shutterbug 2, but to look at Shutterbug 2. I don't like to play Shutterbug 2. I just like to look at it. But it functions like Shutterbug. You have to take pictures and then land. You have to take a picture of a whale that's swimming around in the water, and then you have to take a picture of a hotel up near a pool at a hotel up near your landing zone, and then land. I was still shooting for the perfect score at the time. It took me about 2 or 3 hours because fuck taking those pictures. You have to take a pic because it's bad enough that if you want that perfect score, you have to take a perfect picture. No, you have to take 2. If you had to take 1 picture, but it had to be perfect, that'd be one thing. And if you had to take 2 pictures, but they didn't have to be perfect, you just take the pictures, that'd be another. But no, you have to take perfect photos, and the whale is a moving target, which makes it so much more difficult. I hated the Shutterbug missions. Shutterbug 2, way worse than Shutterbug, just because there's 2 pictures you have to take. It sucks. But then there's Seagull Wing. Seagull Wing is a ridiculous concept, but it's not as hard as it sounds. So I'm going to describe this to you, and it's going to sound really difficult and really frustrating. It's really not that bad when you know how to do it. You are way, way far away from the landing zone, and you're in the hang glider. There's little thermal tunnels or whatever they're called up everywhere. You can choose to ride them. I choose not to when I beat Seagull Wing. And you have to land on your landing zone, but here's the deal. Not only do you have to land on the landing zone, you have to land on the landing zone at the 3-minute mark. No, you don't have to land on the landing zone in 3 minutes. That's what I assumed when I started playing the mission. That's not what you have to do. You have to land on the landing zone at the 3-minute mark. I think there's like a 1 or 2 second margin of error for this. That is ridiculous. But I quickly found a path that I liked, that was good for me. There's different paths you can do. I found a path that was good for me, and I just had to experiment with it for a while to the perfect time. Like I had to know, like I would sail past the target, and then there was a time where I would like watch where the target was on my map and watch where the time was and know exactly when to turn around. So it took a minute, but it's not that bad when you figure out a path that works for you. It's not as bad as it sounds. Still ridiculous concept though. And then that's all your hang glider missions for Class B. Now moving on to your rocket belt missions. Your first is Balloon Bonanza. Balloon Bonanza is both really frustrating and really dissatisfying. There's 2 balloons on your way to the landing zone, and you have to headbutt them. Now, if you just touch them, you will not pop them, and you have to pop them. You pop every balloon. If you just touch them, you won't pop them. You have to ram them in the rocket belt. You have to be at the right altitude. They're kind of moving around in the wind. But here's the thing. Here's what makes it really frustrating and dissatisfying. Once you pop the balloon, that is not the end of the balloon. It separates itself into 5 smaller balloons, and you have to hit each one of those as well. And they bounce. They're a bitch to find. It sucks. It's not a good mission. I do not like Balloon Bonanza. One of the worst of the rocket belt missions, in my opinion. Then you have More Rings. Now, More Rings, on the other hand, is one of the better missions. I really enjoyed playing More Rings. More Rings is a level where I've always said in video games, there's 2 kinds of challenge. Challenge that comes from legitimate challenge, and challenge that comes from bullshit. Now, I'm a Mega Man fan. I'm a Castlevania fan. I'm a Ninja Gaiden fan. I obviously don't mind legitimate challenge. When something's hard, but like in a fun way and in a way that you can get better, I like to challenge myself and get better at games and keep getting better and better, and then watch myself playing a game that maybe I used to be really bad at, and now I can just decimate the thing. I can speed run Mega Man. So, like the first 3 Mega Mans, I can just run through like nobody's business. But this game is unprecedented. It's the only game I've ever played like it. Pilotwings 64 is half legitimate challenge, half bullshit. I don't know. I've never seen another game like that. But More Rings, I think, is the definition. One of two missions that comes to mind where it's really tough, but it comes from legitimate challenge. After playing it enough, I got good at that mission, and it's a really fun one. Took a long time to master, but it was really fun. You have to, there's a bunch of rings up in this area on the snow and Everfrost Island. There's a bunch of rings up, and you have to fly through them. But most of the rings, when you fly through one, it will turn another ring into a time ring. And then you'll see like hands of a clock changing on that ring. And you have to run through that ring before it makes an hour. And so you have a time limit on running through that ring. And you have to kind of know where everything's at. Once I figured out which rings triggered which time rings and all that, it was actually really fun. Took a minute for me to master, but it was fun. I think More Rings is one of the better tests in the game. I didn't mind More Rings. It was a fun one. Then you have Ironhead. Now, the weird thing about Ironhead is a Class B mission. So it's one of the tougher missions in the game. It's on one of the harder difficulties. It is one of the easiest missions in the game. I beat Ironhead in no time at all, and I did it on like my third try. First two tries were just to kind of trial runs to see how you did it, and then third try, I just whooped the competition. I just immediately, not only did I do it, I got a perfect score. It's crazy easy. There's just this balloon bouncing around, and you got to keep ramming it with your head and knock it into a little landing strip. You don't even have to land the rocket belt. You just have to knock the balloon where it goes, and then you immediately win. It's super, super easy. It's, in my opinion, maybe the easiest mission in the game. Like, if it's not the easiest, it's like the second or third easiest. It's super easy. Okay, then we go on to your gyrocopter missions for Class B. You got River Run. Now, River Run is another one. River Run's actually really hard, but in a legitimate challenge way. River Run is a kind of challenging mission that you can get better at. You're flying. It works like the Novice Rings, but well, not Novice Rings, more like Sky Maneuvers, really. It's like Sky Maneuvers if the rings were in harder spots to run through. In River Run, you're running through rings, and then once you get through a few, they start appearing under bridges. And you're on little states, and you're in like kind of the Midwest, I believe, and you're running under bridges. No, you're supposed to be in kind of like Seattle-ish, because I think like Big Arch in Seattle's there. But you're running through all under the bridges, and if you want to get the perfect score, there's a few times where you'll see these rings and they're surrounded by blue arrows. Then you'll see other ones right next to them surrounded by white arrows. And the white arrow ones are usually harder to hit. You want to hit the white arrow ones because they're your bonus rings and they give you more points. And that's the key to getting your perfect score. I actually had some fun with that one, running through trying to hit all the bonus rings and everything, and I did get the perfect score. It's a good mission. River Run's pretty solid. Then, oh god, then we have one of the worst missions in the game. Not the worst, but we have one of the worst. Fucking Metal Horizon. Oh my god, Metal Horizon didn't just make me want to quit the perfect run. Metal Horizon made me want to quit the game. Metal Horizon. Okay, so you're flying the gyrocopter. It's late night, you're in the West Coast on little states. And there's a bunch of targets in the air, and you have to shoot them all with your missiles and then land the helicopter. It took me hours and hours to try to get to where I could hit all the targets. I eventually got to where I could do it, because that's the thing. When you're shooting your missiles, it's ultra realistic. Because let me tell you, Pilotwings 64 is only realistic when it's working against you. When it's working for you, it'll defy all logic. But when it's working against you, it's hyper realistic. And that's how this is. The wind's blowing, and you have to shoot targets in the wind. The wind can take your missiles, and it's just so frustrating. I got to a point after doing it so many fucking times, I got to where I could do it. And I got to where there was one target I would miss a lot of times. but I could generally shoot all the targets every time. But then after doing that, it's not just a Herculean task to hit all these targets, but as is the gripe with most of the missions in the game, after you do this really, really hard task, you have to land perfectly if you want that perfect score. It took me forever, because once again, not very good at landing the gyrocopter. But yeah, Metal Horizon sucks. I hate that mission. Then we have Hawk Attack. Okay, Hawk Attack, I am in a love-hate relationship with Hawk Attack and its follow-up mission in the pilot class. It's a cool mission that I don't enjoy playing. Okay, so if you know me personally, you probably know I'm a big tokusatsu fan. Which if you don't know what that is, it's a Japanese word for special effects. And the tokusatsu genre is a genre of Japanese movies and TV. It's where you get your stuff like Godzilla, Super Sentai, Kamen Rider, that sort of thing. And it usually involves like robots and monsters, giant monsters and stuff. And there's usually a lot of like rubbery suits. Well, Hawk Attack really feels like a tokusatsu mission. You're in little states and you're taking off right from where you took off in Metal Horizon, but instead of heading left, you're heading right. Then down there, decimating the Midwest, is a giant robot, a big, like, shoe-sized robot version of Hawk, the pilot from the game. I was really confused at first because I saw he's Mecha Hawk, and that's how they describe him in the description for the mission. And I assumed it was going to be like a giant metal bird. And then I see it walking on two legs, and I'm like, Mecha Hawk? What the hell is this? And then you get up really close, and you see it's got Hawk's face, the pilot. And I'm like, okay, this is a big robot version of Hawk. So it's really cool that you're, like, fighting a giant robot. It's the first time the game stops being realistic. That's really cool. I like just the feel of that mission and looking at it. It's cool. What I don't like is actually playing the mission. You have to hit Mecha Hawk 5 times. Now, if you want to get that perfect score, you can't just hit him, fly away, hit him again, fly away, etc. You have to at least once or twice get him with 2 missiles if you want that perfect score. That's the way I found. And how do you do that? Well, you just got to get lucky, because Mecha Hawk moves all stupid and erratic. Mecha Hawk, when he's moving through the area, he's just walking. And he's not really doing anything, he's just walking around, and sometimes he'll be walking one way to the right, and then out of nowhere he'll just turn somewhere, and sometimes he's moving. He doesn't have like a set speed either. Sometimes he's walking really slow. Sometimes he's practically running. He just moves all erratic and weird, and he's really hard to hit with your missiles. And when you get right up on him, unless you're behind him, then he's going to look up at you, and he's going to throw rocks at you. And then when you shoot your missile, you're not going to hit him. You're just going to hit a rock. So you have to just keep launching missiles and hitting the rocks and hoping one will hit him. By the time you've hit him, he's like right under you. And when you hit Mecha Hawk with a missile, he screams and goes running. And so by the time you finally hit him, he's just going to keep running right past you. So you can only get 1 missile off on him. Like I said, if you're going for like I did, you have to hit him with a batch of 2 missiles, at least like once or twice. You have to get lucky. I was on the Hawk Attack for like an hour. It was really tough, but I finally did do it. Overall, Hawk Attack is a cool mission that I just do not like playing. Now we're moving on to Pilot Class. Okay, so first you have your 3 missions for the hang glider. We have Thermal Flyer, which Thermal Flyer's neat. It's basically like Velocity Square, but bigger and higher. You're going up on these more of the big thermal streams or whatever they're called. You keep going up, but they're kind of not so, they're kind of not so like in a way that you would expect them to be. You kind of have to look for some of them. There's like, usually you've been trained to, when you're flying toward one, you can just fly into it. There's one you kind of do have to tilt up a little bit to hit, but other than that, it just works like Velocity Square. And by that point in the game, playing enough Velocity Square, I got better at coming down from a great height and landing. It wasn't bad. I feel like if I'd encountered it when I encountered Velocity Square, I would have had a lot more trouble with it. But Velocity Square really had me prepared for Thermal Flyer. So Thermal Flyer wasn't too bad. Then you have Rising Creek. Now, Rising Creek is actually it's another one like, what did I say this about earlier? It's another test where once you have a path set down, I said this about, let's see, I said this about Seagull Wing, yeah. Where once you have a path set down for Rising Creek and you know where to go, it's actually really fun. Like, at first it's kind of confusing and you don't know where to go, and in my opinion, the path it sets you on initially and encourages you to take is the wrong path. There's no wrong path, but to me, it's the hard way. But there's a bunch of rings, and you have to fly through 8 of them, and then land. You're in like the desert. You're in like, I guess it's supposed to be like Arizona or New Mexico in little states. And as you're flying, you have to, like I said, hit 8 rings and then ride a big like jet stream up and then land. It's a fun mission. Like I said, it's kind of hard and landing the hang glider, but it's pretty fun once you got your path down. Then, I am going to just tell you, the next mission is the worst mission in the game and has been the most unpleasant thing I have ever done in a video game this year. Shutterbug 3. Yep, Shutterbug 3. Shutterbug 3 is the moment I quit on my perfect run. The moment I decided to stop trying to perfect run. Like I said, I wanted to perfect run. And I kept thinking, I can do this. It's hard. It's frustrating. It makes me want to rip all of my hair out with pliers. But it's fun. It's fine. I can do this. Shutterbug isn't that much. I played Shutterbug 3 times. And I said, you know what? No. I'm not doing this. I can't do this. So Shutterbug 3, I was just like, man, I cannot do this. So Shutterbug 3, after 3 tries, that's when I decided I'm just going to do this game. I'm just going to beat this game regular style and call it a day. Shutterbug 3 works like Shutterbug and Shutterbug 2, but you guessed it, this time you have to take 3 pictures. Perfect pictures. You have to take a picture of Missy the monster, who's big Loch Ness monster in the Mississippi River. You have to take a picture of a passenger boat, and you have to take a picture of a space shuttle that when you get right up on the space shuttle, takes off. So it's a moving target. It's not only a moving target, it's a fast-moving target. And if you want that perfect score, you have to take a perfect picture of all 3. Now, I found taking a perfect picture of Missy the monster was the easiest perfect picture to take in the whole game. The other 2 are just so horrible to take that I'm like I said, I played Shutterbug 3 times, and I decided, you know what, no, I'm not doing this. So Shutterbug 3 is the worst mission in the game, and just one of the worst things I've had to do in a video game in the last year or two. Like, I really, really hate Shutterbug 3. Like, you heard my Mario episode where I said how much I hated Hazy Maze Cave? Well, I'd rather play through Hazy Maze Cave on repeat for 24 hours than do Shutterbug 3. Like, oh god. But that's all your hang glider missions, and that's all your hang glider missions for the game now, because pilot class is the last class. Now we're moving on to the final batch of rocket belt missions. Your first in pilot class is Dark Cavern. Now, just like I said in my Mario episode, if you remember, I said Hazy Maze Cave was my least favorite level in the game, but right next to it was Lethal Lava Land, which was my favorite in the game. This game has a similar moment. Shutterbug 3 is my least favorite mission in the game. My favorite mission in the game is Dark Cavern, which is your first mission with the rocket belt in pilot class. You are running through a big cavern, a big tunnel that has a couple holes to fall into and some waterfalls. Reminds you of like Tomb Raider or the ruins levels of like the original Crash Bandicoot. But you're flying, and you're basically doing the like flying equivalent of platforming. And it's super fun. And every time, there's no time limit. There's no landing. You don't have to land the jetpack, so you don't have to worry about accuracy. You don't have to worry about impact. You don't have to worry about time. All you have to worry about is getting to the end. You can do it as quick or as slow as you would like. But when you get to the end of the stage, as you get to the end, you will be docked 2 points from your final score every time you touch the wall. So you just have to get good enough to not hit the wall, and it really makes you rely on your skill. Like as the Street Fighter Alpha 3 announcer said, it all depends on your skill. So, I really like it. That's my favorite mission in the game. Dark Cavern is super fun. As much as I am burnt out on that game right now from playing it, I could throw on Dark Cavern right now and play it. It's a really fun test. Then you got Diamond Head. Diamond Head's really tedious and kind of tough, but it's kind of boring, but it's not bad. It's the same as Iron Head. You're headbutting a balloon, and you have hitting it and knocking it into a landing zone. But whereas, like I said, Iron Head was really easy, Diamond Head is really hard. So kind of like Iron Head, but annoying. That's all I can really say about Diamond Head. Then you have Touch and Go 2, and Touch and Go 2 is the sequel mission to Touch and Go. Touch and Go 2 is basically just Touch and Go, but it's a little tougher. Whereas Touch and Go, it kind of just shows you where all the platforms are. Touch and Go 2, you have to do a little hunting. But it's another one, once you figure out where they're all at and do enough exploring, it's actually really fun. I really do enjoy Touch and Go 2. I think the Rocket Belt definitely gets all the good missions for Pilot class. That's a pretty fun mission. I enjoy Touch and Go 2. Then you have your 3 gyrocopter missions. You have Ice Hornet, which is incredibly difficult. I had trouble with that one, and I am so glad that by that point in the game, I had quit my perfect run. I quit my perfect run at Shutterbug 3, and I'm really glad because Ice Hornet, I don't know if I'm even physically capable of doing that. Could I, if I sat down and gave myself unlimited time, could I 100% or get a perfect score on Shutterbug 3? Maybe, but probably not. Could I do it on Ice Hornet? I don't know if I could. I could beat it, and if you're not worried about the perfect score, it's not so bad. But getting a perfect score on that, I don't know if I'd be physically capable of doing that, because you basically have to fly through rings and land. You can fly through as many rings as you'd like, and if you're just trying to beat it, the best way to do it, I think, is to fly through some of the rings and then turn around so you get a good time bonus. But flying through all the rings is really tough, especially trying to get it with the time bonus. So I don't know if I could have done that. It's not one of the worst missions in the game, but it is really difficult, and I don't know how anyone was expected to do that if you wanted the perfect score. Then you have Balloon Rush. Balloon Rush is okay. It's satisfying, but it's also the test itself is frustrating. As you're flying through Balloon Rush, you have to pop all these balloons, which you can run through them or you can shoot them with your missiles. And you have to pop 20 balloons and then go land. It's kind of fun. Popping the balloons is really satisfying, especially running through a chain of them. But you also have a time limit if you're wanting the perfect score, or if you just want a good enough score to kind of beat it and get your bronze badge, which it took a minute. So it's kind of frustrating to actually do good on it. But just running through the balloons themselves is kind of satisfying in my opinion. Then you have the final test of the game, which is basically the final boss, because it's one of 2 fights. It is Mecha Hawk Again, which I think is a weird name. I would have called it Mecha Hawk Returns or something, but Mecha Hawk Again. And it's about Mecha Hawk's back, but this time he's on Everfrost Island, and this time he's swimming, which I think, personally, at this point, I wasn't worried about doing the perfect run, but I think it would actually be easier for the perfect run because Mecha Hawk can't move as fast in the water, and you don't have the big hill you can climb on. Because when you're in Hawk Attack, if he climbs up on the mountain, which he will do sometimes, that can be really frustrating. There's no hill for him to climb onto in Mecha Hawk Again, just because he's swimming. And this time, but it works basically the same. You got to shoot him always in the water. Only when you get close to him, instead of throwing rocks, he throws big chunks of ice at you. It's fun. It's cool. Being I wasn't doing the perfect run, it's kind of neat, and it works nice for a final boss. It kind of, to me, for some reason, the Mecha Hawk battles, I guess it's maybe the angle, really remind me of the final boss from Destroy All Humans, which is a much better game in my opinion. But Mecha Hawk Again's neat, decent for a final boss. Now that's all your main missions, and like I said, when you're playing through those missions, if you get so many points, like each mission there's 100 points to get, and if you get so many points, you get a bronze badge, then so many points and you get a silver badge, and then I think so many points and you get a gold badge, and then if you get 100 points on every mission in there, you get a perfect score. I got a perfect score on most everything, but I stopped going for the perfect scores on the third mission of the pilot class. But after that, I pretty well just got a bronze badge on everything in the pilot class. But if you get perfect scores on everything in different classes, you unlock different bonus games. There are 4 bonus games. Now, I might be wrong on this, but I seem to remember this is the way. If you get a perfect score on everything in the beginning of your class, you unlock Birdman. Perfect score on everything in Class A, you unlock Cannonball. Perfect score on everything in Class B, you unlock Skydiving. Perfect score on everything in Pilot Class, and you unlock Jumble Hopper. And they work the same way. You play through these different missions, and you get better scores, except for in Birdman. Birdman, I don't think there's a way to really get a score on Birdman. It's just like free flying, which is cool, I guess, but after playing this whole game, it's kind of boring. There's nothing to really do. You're just flying, and like I spent that whole excruciating experience flying through these islands. So, I mean, Birdman I didn't really have enough for. Or I didn't have anything for, really. But, if you just couldn't get enough Pilotwings 64 and you want a nice low-stakes way of playing the game, Birdman is for you. Then there was Cannonball, and Cannonball's fun, but it couldn't really hold my attention. I played like one test of Cannonball. You're just in a cannon, and there's big targets, and you have to shoot the big target, which, I mean, it's fun. It's cool. Like I said, it's fun. It'd be a fun time killer for like 5 minutes, but I couldn't see myself really dedicating to Cannonball, but whatever. Then you have skydiving. Your skydiving mission is you are skydiving, and as you're going down, your other pilots are all landing in formation, and you have to do these different poses to get in formation. I tried once, sailed way past them, couldn't figure it out. By the time I figured it out, I was too low. I didn't feel like trying again because it sucked. You get past the cloud level, then you got to parachute. You activate your parachute and land on the parachute. Couldn't figure out how to land on the parachute. Said, yeah, I'm good on this, and that was that. Then there's the Jumble Hopper. I actually never unlocked the Jumble Hopper or played it, so I don't really know much about it. All I know is the Jumble Hopper is like spring shoes, and it's like the most unrealistic vehicle in the game. I never unlocked the Jumble Hopper because you have to get perfect scores on everything in pilot class, and fuck that. So I never got the Jumble Hopper, but well, it is what it is. I guess that sounds kind of cool, but I mean, I personally don't think I'm missing much. And that's everything you can do in the game, pretty much, that I've just covered here. And finally, we'll get around to my thoughts on the game. So I think the game, for me, I think it's a fun game. It's fun enough if you're just trying to beat it. If you just want to pick this game up and play it, get a badge on every mission, and run through the 4 classes, it's fine. It's a nice little time killer. You can beat it even if you're not good at it. You can probably beat the game in 2 or 3 hours. It's cool, but it is ridiculous to get a perfect score, because you can get a perfect score, and it's just that's bigger than me. I can't do it, but it is what it is. So that's what, and it's the definition. I've heard a lot of people describe Sonic this way: it's easy to pick up, difficult to master. Only I like Sonic, and I don't really enjoy. I enjoy mastering Sonic. You're talking to somebody who has gotten the highest rank on every single stage and side mission in Sonic Generations 2 times, both the original PS3 360 version and the Shadow and Sonic Generations versions. Who, that's cool, but Pilotwings 64, I don't see myself doing that. So I think if you just really enjoy torturing yourself, then go ahead and do a perfect run. Otherwise, I don't recommend it. I just recommend playing the game. If you just play it and beat it, it's fun enough. Nothing amazing, but it is what it is. It has a really good soundtrack. Now, the soundtrack is a blessing and a curse. I think the soundtrack is really good. The music sounds great. It's got some really great music. I particularly love the hang gliding music. It's really serene and peaceful, and I really love the soundtrack. But there are not many pieces of music in this game. There's like 4 or 5 songs in this whole game. You'll be hearing them a lot of times. Every hang gliding mission has the same music. Every rocket belt mission, same music. Every gyrocopter mission, same music. And now you could say like, well, yeah, but like Super Mario 64, Dire Dire Docks and Jolly Roger Bay have the same music. There's a lot of ones that have the same music in that, but that's just repeated pieces of music. Pilotwings 64 is the same songs over and over and over again, and it just gets so bleh, like, I found myself a lot of times just muting the game and putting my own music on, so I beat most of that game listening to White Zombie and the Beatles. So, but, it's got some good songs, just wish there was more diversity in there, wish there was, it wasn't so repetitive. Now, it was really good to look at for 1996, this being a launch title for the N64. I mean, it was a beautiful game, the graphics were amazing, like, that was... Like, whereas, like, today, maybe Pilotwings 64 doesn't... 1996, that was a beautiful fucking game, so, like, that's really cool that it looked so good. Will I ever revisit this game? Maybe. I might do this again in the future, like, maybe not for a while, because I am burnt the fuck out on Pilotwings 64 after trying to do a perfect run, but will I ever come back to Pilotwings 64? It might be quite a while, like a year or two, quite a while, but... I might eventually play it again, but I will never, ever shoot for a perfect score ever again on that game. And I don't recommend it, like I said earlier. Overall, my score on Pilotwings 64, what I'm going to give it is I'm going to give it a flat 3 out of 5. That's my final score on Pilotwings 64. I think it is... To me, a flat 3 out of 5 is the pure definition of I have no feelings on this. And you can achieve that score with me in 2 ways. One is by being I am so indifferent on this that I have no opinion. Or you can earn that score by having things I love and things I hate in equal measure. And that's how Pilotwings 64 is. There is a ton of stuff in this game that I absolutely love. There's also a ton of stuff in this game that I absolutely hate. So I think it just evens out to just a flat 3 out of 5 from me. Okay, and that is it for my review of Pilotwings 64. Hope you enjoyed listening to that. Next time I am with you, when we next see each other, I will not be playing the next game on the list. I have the next game on the list on hand, but I am going to take a one episode break from the list, as I may do in the future a little too, to pepper in one of my favorite Super Nintendo hidden gems. I think this game does not get talked about enough with when talking about classic SNES games or when talking about good licensed games. I would argue this next game that I'm going to be reviewing is one of the greatest licensed video games based off a movie ever made. Next time we speak, I'm going to be talking about, for its 30th anniversary, both of the game and the movie it's based on, I'm going to be reviewing Toy Story on the Super Nintendo. So, look forward to it. I hope you made it this far. I really appreciate you being here and listening to this whole show. If you haven't already, I would love it if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share it around with your friends, share it on social media, tell people about it. Just get people listening. If you could, I would really appreciate that. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to my friends in the Geeks with Beards podcast as well. If you look them up on YouTube or Spotify, they talk about comic books, and you will occasionally hear me on there. I'm a big fan, and I'll oftentimes submit audios to them. They, as of recording this, have just dropped their episode about Dr. Fate in his origin story, and they're about to come out with a Sailor Moon episode as well. So I think you should definitely check that out if you like comic books. It's a great podcast to check out. A couple of great guys. And if you're a fan of mine, then I'm on there a little bit too sometimes. So that's a really cool podcast. And anyway, I hope the rest of your day is excellent, and I hope you've enjoyed listening, and that'll be it for today. Bye. Autumn Sea on my way out, and until next time, try to stick the landing.